You went and acquired wealth in occult organizations. You went and acquired wealth in human sacrifice rituals. You went and acquired wealth in the worst of spaces. Okay, randos, you did that. Yeah, you did that. Okay. You went and acquired wealth in all of these weirdo spaces when there was bountiful amounts of it, listen, in your backyards, growing from your trees, preserved in your soil, out here, ready to be harnessed from you just merely digging wells, merely digging holes, merely mining. You would have found wealth, but you're unrighteous, so you don't even know where your vats are at. You don't even know where the wealth of Africa truly is at. You are yet to excavate certain places, but you're not going to get there because, listen, are you not the most corrupt continent on earth? You are. Your leaders are monsters. Your leaders are ridiculous. Your leaders are mandashi. Basitshela ukuthi thina siyatswafa and asifuna umsebenzi, that's why siphuwa kunjalo la in Africa. So of course, when after Kimberley mine, are you ever going to find another diamond mine in Africa? When are you ever going to find more gold reserves after Gold Reef City now is only like a theme park and no longer bringing forth gold? When under heaven are you going to mine more minerals when there are more corrupt executives at Anglo Platinum and Anglo Gold than in this planet altogether combined? When Patrice Motsepe is out here feeding his niece to be like the only big fat giant female mining boss because they all are putting together with connections. When there's all this corruption, you are not going to inherit the plush of Africa, all its reserves, all that which is yet to be dug out of it. And so therefore the wealth of the land, you're not going to win anything until all of Africa is evangelized. Then on that day you will win the prosperity that Europe saw for a minute, until you realize that God was not picking a bone with you Africans. It's that you were just violently idolatrous and you rejected the cross. Because were you not evangelized right next to Greece? The gospel went to Ethiopia. The gospel went to Sudan. It went to Upper Africa. God, it never went all the way down because you rejected it in Upper Africa. You rejected it in Northern Africa. And I mean, those were the days of merely ships, everything. Hey? No aeroplanes. When is Paul ever going to get to South Africa? When is he ever going to get to even West Africa, Nigeria? When is he ever going to get to Central Africa? When? Like, listen, on a donkey? Yeah, so it was the responsibility of Ethiopia to evangelize you, but now look today, they're all, what do you call this? Babisang set up. Queen of Sheba was Ethiopian, and she went all the way to the Middle East, to Israel over there to go and check out what Solomon was doing. The Ethiopians were supposed to bring the gospel to Africa, but now today they're Islam. They're Muslim. They allowed themselves to get taken over. They did not fight for the cross, and that's why Africa is barren. They were supposed to keep on traveling. The Ethiopian eunuch was indeed just that, Ethiopian. So the gospel could have come to Africa and spread like, a cancer. No. Okay. Well, what spreads beautifully in these streets? Listen, that virus. Like, you can't find stuff that spreads beautifully except for the gospel. So we can only ever compare it to a virus. The gospel would have been virulent across Africa insofar as people who are now what you give. Ethiopia made a decision to make disciples of all nations. Instead, they squelched it. So because of your paganism, Islam thrived rather. They conquered you by war. Whereas Christians do not conquer anybody by war, except for the Spaniards. They are to be forcing everybody to convert to Christianity or leave. However, largely within Christianity, we don't win like our religion. We don't win people over for our religion by conquest. We win by love. That's how God, we love him for he loves us first. And so if you are a lover, of course you're not going to be the first person to actually be planting the gospel on a stubborn continent. It's going to be Islam. But these buggers be out there, they have to get uprooted, otherwise Africa is not going to be ripe and ready for the Antichrist system. It is too backward. It's too backward. But one thing that the backwardness of Africa is going to achieve, understand that, is essentially softness of heart pertaining conservativeness, because Africa without the gospel is still conservative, except for, I don't know what's happening in South Africa without the gospel is still conservative. So it's not going to be rough to convince them that abortion is problematic. It's not going to be rough to convince them that gay marriage is problematic. It's not going to be rough to convince them that, listen, lesbian, be careful, be afraid, be very afraid. It's not going to be rough to convince them that what do you call this, like transgender surgeries are problematic. LGBTQIA ideals and just random rampant immoralities that have been easily embraced in the West won't fly in Africa. Plus, just like steamy, raunching, hot sex scenes in entertainment industries across Africa are just banned. Like, they still lost, like, they like the South Korea that way. Television is still, well, like I said, except in South Africa and Nigeria. But much of Africa is still kind of conservative, mamela, conservative. So, when a nation is still, or nations, a concert of nations are conservative and they believe in modesty and virtue and all that jazz. A lot of Africa, of which is what Islam of which is what hard, not draconian with their Sharia law. Women are not going to get out of hijabs and suddenly, I spoke about Iran earlier, they're not going to get out of hijabs and suddenly into mini skirts or bikinis. They're going to get out of hijabs and then into jeans. And then over 10 years, they might wear shorts in jeans. Then after another like 20 years, they might agree to wear a bikini at the beach. So when people are already modest, it's not going to be hard to tell them cover up. Already right now in the West, in America, what do you call this? There is all this, like, this crazy lament just doing its rounds, coursing through the veins of their culture, of people on social media, thoroughly out here, loathing, hating on, afflicting, people who are trying to push modesty, saying that they are trapped and they're sexless and they're bored. They're out here attacking modest Christians and of course Muslims and other religious groups across the world that don't pride themselves in like wearing tassels around your nipples as a bikini top, because listen, just a bra top at the beach was not even enough for you, and now you gotta have tassels like you are a shimmy shaking lady on Broadway or whatever. That, like, yeah, they say that as a 21-year-old woman it is your responsibility to be sexy. So listen, wear barely anything. That's why you be finding American men out here being passport bros, going to Colombia, going to Africa, going everywhere else because they're tired of immodesty of Western women. They're immodest. And these immodest ladies are brazen enough to out here be calling all of the religious world and all modest women across the world essentially trapped in modesty. Trapped. Like, we're out here screaming to be sexy. Yeah, they're ungodly, they're uncouth, but it's Western culture. Things are upside down, wrong way out, inverted, hey? Things are inverted over there. And so because there's like a general inversion, people are complaining about things that they ought not complain about. They must just leave people alone. You can, like, leave modest folk alone, but now it's not enough to leave them alone. You gotta attack them. That's actually happening in the US, okay? And then of course, we don't even have to talk about how nefarious the entertainment industry is. Such countries as these are in danger. Why? Because of the fact that they're immodest, they're immoral. Yeah. People over there also don't fear law enforcement. You saw what happened with those ICE agents and that lady that ended up dying, getting shot in the US and Minnesota. They be out here riding cops over. Like, you're barely gonna find that in Africa. People generally still have a fear of authority. You're barely gonna find that even in the Middle East. They tend to have a fear of authority. As indeed Paul says, you rightly honor your governments. So when they start on a good ground like that, where they are already honoring of the government, they are law-abiding citizens, and they are, what do you call this, largely modest. They're not comfortable to be rocking miniskirts, walking around in public society, while they can be content with taking off their hijabs because they're not Muslim anymore. Nonetheless, they are not going to, alongside taking off hijabs, also just kind of take it off their panties. Like, no, they're gonna, and also they're not gonna, as a result of being liberated from governmental control, that is very oppressive, they're not going to suddenly become anarchists. They insist on a king. Like, look at what's going on in Iran. They're trying to bring that crown prince guy back. Bafuna a king. They don't want just like a civilian-led government. They have respect for authority and respect for kings and leaders. Respect for people that can actually establish government. And God says that governments are good for them because they're there for your protection, according to Paul, right? Honor them, but insofar as they're righteous, right? Insofar as they're not trying to make you ungodly, insofar as they're not trying to make you recant Christianity, insofar as they're not trying to make you get my point. And African nations are still kind of kept in a bunch concerning governments that way. They have fear of authority, and that's something that is just waxing thin in the West. Do you understand? And so it makes for a nice, healthy ground for the growth of the cross, because there's not too much to uproot upon redeeming people for the Lord in that space. We don't have to deal with too much gangrene having metastasized. So we can start essentially on a healthy slate over here. And given that we've got this excellently healthy slate that is doing an excellent, beautiful, healthy slate thing, I guess let's start Christianity already from a vantage point where people still love virginity. I told you about those two ladies that were killed in KwaZulu-Natal. Mamavishi, and 25 years old, priding themselves in Zulu culture, but they were not godly. and they were killed in a hijacking or something, like unfortunately just taken to the other side prematurely. Identity virgins as 25-year-olds. That's something that right now currently apparently in America is being frowned upon. The Americans are the ones that released that crazy movie or book or whatever called 40-Year-Old Virgin, like it's a taboo. Like it's a taboo to be a 40-year-old virgin. Like it's a taboo to not have had sex before marriage, right? Yeah, you're gonna find stuff like that in the US, yeah, or in other Western cultures. But in Africa, there are parts of it where women still pride themselves in only marrying once, only having sex only once married. And they also pride themselves in modesty in the home, like the home, like build, like what is this, cooking, cleaning. A trad wife is an African woman's staple. Listen, even if they are working a corporate job in 9 to 5, they still manage to cook up a hectic meal and take care of a house really well. Yeah. And there are other parts where they're willing to stay home and to take care. Yeah, essentially biblical principles are already kind of part and parcel of what we be out doing in these streets. So it would be easy to evangelize Africa, is what I'm getting at. It would be easy if at all there were true teachers raised up by the Lord, sent by the King to correct doctrine, that Africans might be truly healed, that nations might be truly revived, reformed, and upon nations being truly revived and truly reformed, therefore start to build your countries, because God, if you are righteous, He will prosper your land, He will make it green, He will give you rain, He will enable you to identify vats of stored minerals, raw materials, like things of the earth that you thought like you've already dug everywhere. He will help you find that, and then your continent will thrive, your country will thrive. But Africa, for as long as you're this pagan monster, for as long as you're busy grunting ancestral worship, for as long as you're still such witches, listen, whatever. Ambani sangomas, Ambani disappear. Angnandabanani akileraje. I've been saying it so very many times, but people are out here in denial, thinking that maybe one day I'll be a sangoma. Anyintandi. Because right now I'm in feeling you are whack. Yeah. Are you feeling some kind of way? Again. Nangdaba. Okay. So for as long as one of these all over these streets, all over Africa, for as long as there are these incendiary monstrosities like Nana Kwaku, unrepentant in his ugly nature, you will still be a land flowing with milk and honey, however unable to cultivate that honey, harvest it. Because what are you doing? You will keep on having militia groups and riots and protests and all different kinds of nasty, ugly bodies doing their rounds. There was a time when I was busy saying of America that, guys, listen, you can't say the world is ending because your country is that evil. But at the same time, when I looked at my country, I was like, but it's also evil. I am rooting for the US because, you know, they raised me up. Right now, there's so much ball dropping on the part of America that I'm kind of losing my steam concerning them. Lots of ball dropping by the Trump administration in particular, and that I'm losing my steam where they're concerned. But in spite of that steam, I have an acute awareness that apparently that's where I'm going. That's where I'm moving. God is the one that decides where the baton is moving. However, this year is not a discussion about America. It's about South Africans. It's about all of you African men and your rituals. To God, you have excitement about the Lord in the beginning, and then you become these ritualists. And now look at our country, in particular South Africa. Every chick is out here being bitzat. We're being put in eternity. We are being sent to Hades because a lot of us are getting killed before we come to Christ. And you are just sending women to hell and then afterwards draining them. So listen, grab your land. Seeing as you don't want to repent and do what you want with it. Mara, I can do land Jeff like Blomile, Kikens Tozela, Meta Zombie Santi. Hanging out palm window when I'm just filled by God. When I'm just filled by the Spirit of God. Mamela, listen, you are ungodly and that's why you think I should die. You're busy doing death curses. The other day I had a dream of me getting hit by a car and rolled over because this chick wako YouTube though I gave her a solution to extend her life, she's still out trying to get me rolled over by a car. You will keep doing that. It's like you will do that, okay? This thing of yours in Africa where you say if I can't have her then she must die. It is the very reason, oh crazy incendiary bamboos and bamboos, it is the very reason why, albeit having so much potential to be so much bigger, you will nonetheless, in spite of all that, dotter about like a geriatric until maybe your Gen Alphas will maybe resuscitate Africa. In Africa, I don't know what they're going to do. I, however, can tell you that in South Africa, We are only ever going to be brought back from the precipice of death by Gen Alpha. Push in your border before you will ever see anything that makes sense, just like the current generation of Germans that saw the Holocaust. By border before they can see revival. Yeah. They are dying before they can see revival in their country because they stood aloof like Edom over Israel. In the book of Obadiah, when Israel was being raided by her enemies, they stood aloof when the Jews were being massacred. And now today, they've only got 5% of Christians in their country. That's Germany. It's a free land for you. It's a free land for you to practice your faith as you want, yet nonetheless, in spite of the freedom of the land, there is not thriving. There's no prosperity for Christianity. That only can speak of a judgment on a country. They can only evidence that you're done for, you're handed over as a nation. Mara, for now. Because God will not leave people out in a limb indefinitely. He will come for them little German alphas. Maybe like South Africa, I don't know. What are the German alphas? Mara, for now, the present generation, only a remnant or like small negligible number of them when they die go to heaven. Only because what did you do in the Holocaust? While South Africa, that thing is coming to you. It's coming to you. It's coming to you like you're showing shortly of it by a scope around the corner. It's coming. Yeah, okay. So Jonah Conglomerate, Nibizilwe, my ex-boyfriend, I told you how he was called. The guy that I wanted to steal from another woman when I was still in the world. His ex-girlfriend, yeah, okay, passed away. They were still young, very young. I think maybe just out of their teens or whatnot. And she passed away from a sickness. Don't know what the sickness was, right? She was just not healthy, but she got born again before Ashona. She got saved and stopped fornicating, got convicted of sin, and tried to reach her man for Christ. And this guy was just not interested in the things of God. She there like made a baby with some other woman, and broke her heart. However, she forgave him. God took him back, but nonetheless, he was not interested in Jesus. The same guy was the one that I wanted to steal. But then I got convicted of Christ and he was the one with the voice LA deep. I was just saying, why umbalega? Yeah. I also got keen on the things of God around the same time I met him. But I was willing to give him a shot and so abandoned Christ in order to be with him because I was yet to have too much conviction about Christianity. And he passed me shade and gave me grief. And one time I met him because like I went on one date with him, whatever, like he was stringing me along, this guy, but he had left like his wallet with me because gave me a wallet in my purse. I made him clear what I'm all to give him my wallet, the wallet high. And on that day right, because it was a Sunday, and he was like, I had so little conviction of sin. I wear a mini dress. I was wearing a mini dress at church. Tanga everywhere. Anyway, whatever. I would ultimately get convicted of modesty. Yeah, I meet him, go clear water to give him walati high, and then he looks at me on some. I can't make a outfit a mini dress and this guy, I'm so sleepy, like I'm not sleepy, but I'm tired. It's like 12:37 the next day. I've just been rapping, but I'm almost closing this message, so there is contentment over there. Anyway, yeah, this guy Angsheba up and down, me looking all super all super, what you call this thing? Like I was church, like you know how you were looking when you go to church, man, like elaborate. I was looking elaborate. And then he's like, it was Sunday afternoon, okay? And he was like, yeah, you know, put me some training. I was like, yeah, I went to church. He was like, oh, and he rolled his eyes. Yeah, then the day when I went on a date with him, we went to go and watch a match, yeah, soccer, because he was like an account manager and he was entertaining clients. And so it was like this soccer match between Pirates and Chiefs. And I was there. I thought it was a nice date though. Like, I'm happy to go and watch soccer on a date. I'm happy to go and watch sports on a date. Like, it's a nice date. So I was happy. But nonetheless, he was stringing me along. We're dating and we then have a conversation, we talk. And he gave me an experience that he had. A story about an experience that he had. Where he had attended and they out here said something to them that annoyed him and his friend. And then of course he told me the story about the ex-girlfriend that passed away, that tried to evangelize him for Christ, but then it didn't catch. So this man was cold. That's what I'm getting at. And he had enough conviction to attend church by himself at some point with his friend and walked out because he just felt like Christianity is just whack. Because me, I went on to because he was stringing me along, okay? And then he decided to go Mamela, you're not doing anything of that nature. kodwa hamba yothatha oyakhe umfazi ona motshware ka ditlhare hure kgatla shata. Anyway, whatever. Yena o nyetse, he was a doorbell honey. And I'm tired, like I bet you can see it. It was a doorbell honey. She give me like cricket, 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 cricket. Dude was like, oh, you want the door open? One child. Yeah, well, he passed me up. And again, he was turned off by my Christianity, me going in church. He was turned off, but he was called. He was turned off, however, in spite of being turned off, he was called. Like, listen, the story, like, I believe I've pretty much given you the rap sheet of all of them. Ex-boyfriend that passed away that held me hostage, but he's now late. Raised in a Christian school, Catholic. Yeah, and everything. At some point, I would imagine he had conviction of sin because Roma is very straight, very, very straight. At school, like St. Matthew's. After high school in Japela, player, sleeping around like no man's business. Unfortunately, he passed away still in his sins. Called, not chosen. Like, ngubani uBaruch lana njengoba nithi ubhulukwe ukwami ngumukhulu kundala kunkima aningitsheleni bobhuti bami njengoba nithi mina ngigqoke ithayera for ubhuluko nikuBaruch nina nizolingana ulobhuluko ubhuluko buzonilingana nina uzonilingana uwami ubhuluko banilingana yini ngoba mina I can only ever speak the words of Christ because unginikeza ubhulukwe ngambugqoka kodwa nina nifuna ukugqoka ubhulukwe kihlanyezana. You're harassing me because I listen to the call of Christ on my life and I'm not the only one. There are more women that are serious with God than men are. And we're finding ourselves single as the years progress at later ages because you are all turned off by our, what do you call this thing? Our chastity. You're too promiscuous. You're pleasure seeking. You're sleeping around. You're doing stuff, and now some of y'all got STDs, you got wives, you got children, you got all this, and you're trying to bother God-fearing women that you passed out back in the day. Listen, pumani in like you are dandruff after head and shoulders. It's wrong modi tlogela ngozama ho renyala as second wife now that you realize ukuthi umfazi wakho uyathakatha yisatan. Kupa leke tlogeleng lona that married abo Delilah nabo Jezebel. You married the godless women. You married abafazi abanehlisile. You married abafazi that knocked on your doorbell. I'm not gonna be a doorbell honey. Ain't no dude out to be like, first one to out to propose marriage to me. Making like those UPS drivers. The story is so sad. Like, how you just go kill people like that, dog? Like, what the heck? Like a family, why? Like, people are violent out there. Anyway, I don't want to label on that story. It's heartbreaking. The one in the US with the UPS, fake UPS drivers that killed family members, leaving children, like, just frantic. Oh, God. Like, why did I allow myself to think about that? South Africa looks the way that it looks. And they decided to, you made a decision rather uktwala instead of repenta and serve God, right? You've got Imam Lambo. You are the ones. Therein lies the point I'm trying to get at, okay? You are the ones that are responsible for why black people are living in their urine in downtown Joburg, in their feces, in litter. You are the reason why babies are being raised in contaminated, disease-ridden, debilitated buildings with electrical wiring on the walls, live, with children living in that space facing threats of electrocution. You are the tycoons that own these real estates, these properties, and that collect rent and comfort yourself in the money you're making when there is a mother living in her urine. Listen guys, yes, and there is nothing seemly or attractive about impilo zenu in the occult, nothing. And there's nothing seemly about you as human beings. You're evil, you're nefarious, and I don't know if you have any conviction of sin, but if you don't, I don't know why. At this point, you should be grieving, man. At this point, you should be mourning. By now, you should basically see yourself in the mirror. You've done this to a country. So when a revolt comes, when a revolution overwhelms you, when you get out here twisted like a kook sister, understand it's because why, under heaven, did you imagine the poverty-stricken of this country would sit around out here eating McDonald's in a building in downtown Johannesburg that smells like urine all over and not want to vomit? What makes you think that that woman, that man, those children are not going to one day rise up and be like, listen, Pumanla Giti, how in the world am I at a walking distance going to be living next door to Houghton when I live in a building like this? How am I going to be living next door to Houghton, to Killarney, when I live in a building like this? How? Because that's the disparity of this country. You be out here getting Lani suburbs where Nelson Mandela used to stay, right next to that very building in downtown Johannesburg where people are living in their fecal matter. You did that to the country. You created those disparities. You created those gaps. And so when then there was a riot in your streets, you had it coming. You did this to me. Look at the vastly different lifestyles that my family have from me. You have done that. In your own family members, you've got people living below the bread line while you're a millionaire, a tycoon. Why have you no regard for your fellow man? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Listen, do what you want to do. You're corrupt, you're evil, and you have no respect for people. But God sees their pain. But God sees their pain. But as for me, while I am disquieted sometimes about America, apparently I'm moving there. Chaos said I get when it's gonna get fixed, but apparently I'm going there. However, whatever happens, happens. All I know is that country South Africa so hiding. You're holding on to me for dear life, so I can out just think there's a stranger in my house, like I'm Tamia. Eh? What's love got to do with it? Abuti, now I wanna love my man. I give it a look while on the chest of my husband and not think that one chest I got body heat. Ngoba vele ngiyakhona ukubloma underneath the chest, on the arm of a man. Manglele, not of a woman. I complained about that. Listen, out you're rebuking lesbians, saying, where am I gonna lay my head at night? Relax. I want a man. Evil. Well, I'm not gonna go there and lay my head on the chest of Indo Satan, whose heart beats all the day long. Satan. Taking a fly. No, listen, what am I gonna do with all that? I love men, but they need correction. They are in dire need of repentance. In order to acquire wealth for themselves, in order to acquire wealth, they destroyed the country. And now they're trying to make me a side chick, mame. Mistress or a second wife. Second wife to a guy that you dated for years. You were there first. Baby, I see where I went wrong. Because until we got and how to if umsad wako nabantwana bakho are willing to go and travel with you to Africa to go and be a missionary in Sudan and face all the risk of all of those militants. Father right gospel tsamaya. Mara I not remain a coward. Do let them say what they own because you deserve each other. Like, keep your life, but you don't get to make me take scraps after regretting the decision to be Upud Madesa. Now that you're a middle-aged man, you've got a midlife crisis and you're in great regret, you're not going to make me accommodate the nonsense that all these females in these streets accommodated. Because I gave my life to God, or didn't I? And the God that I gave my life to, he don't lose no battle. God don't miss. He don't got butterfingers like a bad netball player. He doesn't miss. God don't miss. God don't make no errors, no mistake. He is entirely perfect in his providence as he's out working it on behalf of his children, working for our good, and of course at the expense of the world, seeing as they are the wicked for the day of our trouble. That is my God and his big goal. Alright. And I'm running with him, and you with your idolatry, do you? The way when you're collecting rent from a building that smells like urine, do you? But as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord and wait to be restored like the Ark of the Covenant. Do you understand? To our brethren. I will wait to be restored to my people. I will wait to be restored to other Christians. I will wait to be restored to those among whom I can fellowship and finally be in a church again, and praise again, and worship again, and go to Bible study again, and do life like it was the good old-fashioned days but in another country. I will finally live. I will finally live, and I will finally adore God first, and of course people. I will finally be able to effect my love for the people, for individuals, and I will finally bake. Okay, listen, I want to bake. I want to make cinnamon rolls so badly, but I'm restricted. I keep on looking at all of these people with their different recipes on YouTube, and I'm like, ooh, I want to try that. Ooh, I want to try that. Ooh, I want to try that. Listen, I want my oven, and I want my island in the center of a kitchen that's going to be big enough for me to make lots of cinnamon rolls for the church, and also maybe start a bakery. I just want to bake. When am I going to bake? When? I'm not sitting in the house of some dude that's going to make me make puff pastry croissants for him. Ke lo etsa tiramisu nje fela for nja e loileng e tlo nketsa gore na ke tlogele modimo. Why? Under heaven would I want to do something of that diabolical nature? I love Jesus, and it's all that basic. My skills, my talentedness, my glory, and of course, my baking tricks, because I got them up my sleeves. They belong to Jesus, and of course to my husband, children, and the church, and anyone that will eat my cinnamon buns. Yeah. For the price when I can buy my own nuts, and I can buy my own cinnamon and make my own dough, and how to roll it, and how to bring my own butter. Hey, you know, drizzle my own drizzle, you know, my own caramel topping. And be like cinnamon, right? I can make these more kitcheny. And bake in my own house. But it's gonna happen. Listen, it's coming. Kilo bacon, guys, Mara. You're not gonna be able to eat my my Swiss roll because you sucked, okay? And as for blocking me, and I'm a sloth now. I bet I'm speaking with a slur. You be looking at me like I'm drunk or whatever. Listen, at least I don't have a pooza face like some of y'all. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. Mara, YouTube. Okay. Mamelang alright. Kire ulukile. Listen, I could have collabed with Tebo Tula. I could have. That's okay. Uluki. Le apere di tranca di kankrapa di alzo mahlo a lona le tletse dikeledi. Mara has not my tail though le very uncomfortable and na he ke tlo ride as rain. Ke tlo sharp, I'm strutting. Ke tlo get in the head. Kwa ba bu kwa bong le kanang if anything ke tlo ba rocky. And then badly ke tlo ba OC, ke tlo ba cheeky because I'm going to be protected, get it taken care of. Lenna batho ba bang pona mo strateng ke tsamaya ka kwa yaga. But isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Look at her, she's so protected. I guess the Lord doesn't have all her back. Isn't she lovely, wonderful? And take it, I got to go to tang, queen. I'm hanging out with my diversified group of friends from all races, like the way that heaven be looking. Hey, yeah. And that's also another thing about you black Africans, like proper, you be hating anybody that is not trying to be racist against white folk. I don't know what's going on with you. I'm not the banana. Listen, I don't care. I said I don't care. I cannot die. Yeah, I can. Yeah, we're done. Like, I'm so tired. Like, listen, after my content share, in spite of how compelling all that which I spoke might have been, alright, yeah, there is these crazy people that'll go back to the drawing board side. They'll insist on eradicating everything I speak. They'll do whatever they want to do with their thing that they're doing. And then when they're done, they'll say you must fall pregnant, you must have a baby daddy, you must sleep with me, you must marry me or to wedlock, you must marry me even not to love Christ. Yeah, you must still function as a singuma and a witcher. You must be both all these nasty, gnarly, insignificant things. You must fornicate, masturbate. You must marry somebody else's husband. You must forget who you are. Your middle name is that we might come and infiltrate you. We want you to just be a whole balloon walking around having lost the air, so it's also very shriveled up. You must be whatever. We say, yeah, listen, I can speak some very compelling stuff. And people will still be like, you still must be here. You still must be here. You still must be here. You still must be, oh yeah. Okay, alright, okay. It don't matter how long I speak for or what I do or what I be or how I achieve. Because these monsters in these streets will still say, at the end of the day, Karabo, beggars can't be choosers because he thoroughly thinks that I'm a beggar. You still got to be my wife and I will do what it takes to get ahead. I'm also gonna rape you because I'm gonna succeed. I'm gonna take what I want. And I'm not gonna move. And listen, I don't care that you have qualms to pick bones, yeah? With the fact that I'm HIV positive, I'm still gonna get you because you're a beggar. and you can't pay a chooser. I will always, in spite of how compelling my message might be, get this kind of reaction. But you see, that's why there is a revolution coming on your own shores. Only look at Iran. It's happening. Listen, it's happening. But you will cross your fingers. You will hope for the best and like proper. You will plot and you will scheme. And on your way to hell, some of you will still be plotting and scheming. You will insist that I die. And even if I were to die, which I won't, but even if I were to die hypothetically, the country will still endure exactly what it is that God is going to put it through, because you've got all the makings of a just nation. You are aloof, standoffish when your brethren are suffering. You are holding hostage the ark of the covenant amidst you. You are at war, at enmity with the cross by being at war, at enmity with God's people. You are impoverishing them and making them out here thresh wheat in a wine press. You are raiding them like the Amalekites, and in particular you are going for their weakest. All the signs that caused God's enemies to be judged most voluptuously are in you, South Africa. It is impossible for you to not be judged, for if God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, you must endure the judgment of Moab before the judge Ehud. You must endure the judgment of Midian and the Amalekites before the judge Gideon. You must endure the judgment of the Amalekites after raiding the Jews following having come out of the land flowing away of the land of Egypt of slavery. You must endure the judgments of Philistia after for 20 years like terrorizing the Hebrews. Before the judge Deborah was raised up. You must endure the life, essentially, of Israel. Not life of Israel, but the lives of Israel's enemies. In the Old Testament that walked in a particular grain. When you are walking in that exact same grain, God is the same. If you're going to hold God's people hostage, if you're going to make them poor, if you're going to make them terrorized and be scared to go out on the streets, like what the Philistines did with their iron chariots and their Sisera and their what's that king? I forgot his name. If you are going to what do you call this? Like I said, raid the camp of God's people. If you are going to pride yourself in impoverishing your neighboring nation because you've got metallurgy on your side, because you lean on nothing but your iron chariots, you lean on nothing but your maritime trade, you lean on nothing but this, but that, but the other. Listen, all these things will be taken away from you. You have never mind being taken away from you, but all the judgments of God's enemies in the Bible that acted in certain ways that you now today are acting like. In the book of Malachi, God was out here judging the Jews through the prophet Malachi for divorce and remarriage, and he called divorce violence, and then kept quiet for 400 years. So essentially endured them through what dark ages. You will endure judgments as indeed described by Malachi over these elites. You will endure the judgments as Israel when you are out here opulent, eating. Do you understand what I'm saying? While there are poor people among you, but you go in the temple and you make sacrifices, Amos will rock up and say, 3 things I have against you, 4. God will not relent. Do you understand? And he will then judge you and he will tell you that you're going to be driven out, you're going to this, you're going to that. You don't get to be so idolatrous and not endure what it is. If you out here be building a golden calf instead of worshiping God at the temple that was built for you by his servant Solomon, and you make like Jeroboam and decide to hook up a golden calf as he too, because you are scared that people are going to ultimately be restored to Judah for going back there to worship. You are going to have a prophet rock up, even though he gets eaten by bears. Nonetheless, he does prophesy that your whole lineage will be wiped out from the face of the earth, O Jeroboam. That is what under heaven you are going to endure as a nation, because those things that happened to those people evidence the character of God. Those things that happened in the Bible evidence to you God's character, and how he not only deals with Israel's sin and how he deals with her rebellion, but also right next to the rebellion of Israel's enemies, and taking for granted that God has handed them over to them in order to deal with Israel. That's how God works. He will hand you over, if you are a people that he loves, to your enemies, but your enemies, upon becoming arrogant, he will then judge them through basically he will raise up a judge or even a righteous king to then handle the enemies of God are getting comfortable in trying to think nothing of the Jews. And that's how he works. Judges his own people with their enemies, but then tells the enemies, don't get too comfortable. They're my people. And that's how I chastise them. In South Africa, you are walking in a combination of these things. The Christians among you are apostate in the most worstest way, in the most diabolicalist way. They are compromised. They are eating food sacrificed to idols. They are not boycotting halal food, etc., etc. I spoke about that in my other content. Okay, in the video before this one and the one even before that, by compromise, by settled, and that's the reason why they're not even able to drive out witches in their churches. That's the reason why pastors, prophets that are not of God are not manifesting demons, even though people are in public prayer, concerted, like fasting, and yet nonetheless a whole fake pastor into fake signs and wonders is not manifesting. There's no power. They have a form of godliness that denies the power thereof. And then there is the era of that which the body of Christ has been handed over to as a result of their rebellion and their idolatry, their wicked government. They're handed over to ANC, handed over to a falling economy, handed over to halal food, handed over to Islam takeover. They're handed over to a nation that has no respect for their religion, handed over to the CRL Commission, trying to make us get licenses to practice religion in our nation. Ingati, we are under the CCP party of China. Communism is out here crawling up our skirts like a bad man into GBV and all different kinds of sexual violence. Yeah, Christians are enduring that. Because you are at enmity with your maker. You have accommodated as a Christian country without boycotting, without rioting, without complaints. Random weird Easter bunny nonsense. Sky Easter. What does that have to do with Jesus? You have let Christmas get taken over by paganism. You have allowed for the nativity scene to be removed out of malls. And you have allowed for nativity scenes to also be removed out of schools. Say government. You have allowed for what do you call this? Like I said, we've been taken over by halal food in our stores, and our public holidays and our Christianity is out here being insulted by everyone. I mean, because you're wicked. So what it is that you've allowed your country to be, what you've handed it over to, God will hand you over to it. He will let the ANC dance around on your head, even though the Constitution covers you and your national anthem is Christian. Nonetheless, the ANC will dance around tap dancing on top of the Tokotalona with the ancestral worship. They will infiltrate into your universities. Nonsense, like teaching students in African studies, witchcraft. Because our country is a witchcraft state, in spite of us having all of these witchcraft killings, ritual killings all over the shows. Why are you teaching young minds at university witchcraft? Why? In the spirit of education. What the heck? You might as well bring a Ouija board to class, right? That everybody might be out to haunted, at home unable to sleep or whatever. That is South Africa for you. You're handed over to your government. Christians in this country, listen, you have been handed over to your government. It is clear, it's evident. They're not preaching. You are handed over to your government. Because are they not even, like I said, infiltrating how you worship and what you do over there? They're brazen enough to think if they can tell you that you can't prophesy. As sure, take your country. You will finally repent. Mamela, you will look upon your Messiah. All I know is that I back this country and bring back temple, maybe. Because I'm all about that business. Bring back temple. Temple chocolate. Alpha. You have done me dirty. You have turned me over to the Midianites to be killed. And so you will endure a most hard judgment. This guy Ona that handed me over to enemies that I used to think was my future husband. I warned him in my last video that if he doesn't repent. Did he stop? No, he didn't. And that thing. Because he's going to be so bereft. He's going to be so bereft. I had a dream of him being like that judge in Israel that said to God, if you will deliver these people into my hands, I forgot his name, I will sacrifice to you the first thing that I meet when I come back from war. And the first thing he met was his daughter. And so he sacrificed his daughter to God. And he was bereft. I told you this guy's like Augustine. He will repent. He will give his life to Christ. But at what cost? At what point? Only when you're coming back from war after finally deciding to rise up and do what is better and then lose your child. Because look at what you're doing to me today. I warned him. I warned him that he's going to lose his daughter. But listen, these things hurt. And I'm not going to labor on them in the same way that I don't want to labor about the UPS drivers that killed the family. People put themselves in a position to endure trash. Do you understand? They're not UPS drivers, but they faked UPS in UPS uniforms. But yeah, this is South Africa. Take your nation. This guy, like, listen, how many times can a woman stand in the gap for your child? You are so evil. Repent, because your daughter is gonna die as a result of your insanity. When other thinks that I'm Bambi, repent and save your daughter's life, you selfish bugger. You've been selfish all this time, is what I'm getting at. All this time you've been selfish. All this time you have been selfish. All this time. And it's the thing that I lamented about at the very beginning of this discussion, speaking about how it is that black men, you are so selfish that I personally have never experienced selflessness from any of you. And I was shocked to see Jay-Z speak about how I was surprised to see the pain in my wife's heart, life. and the pain I caused made me essentially stop doing nonsense. If at all there are men that can feel compassion for the sorrow of women, why don't you just down tools on afflicting women? Or just having sex or kissing, making out, enjoying the pleasures of a mistress. Asad, she's a mistress. She thinks she is your girlfriend about to turn a wife, and then you break her heart when she finds out you're married. Stop doing trash like that, black men. Listen, Lasang, you've got a mental illness. There is a worm in your brain. There is a mind virus spreading, an amoeba. It's eating at you. Like, repent. Yeah, I've spoken my piece, okay? It's like 13:09 and I am bushed like a jungle. I often speak out of adrenaline, and so I've gotten my heart out. I gotta eat now. I'm famished, and I also gotta sleep. So only with 2 fans going out there trying to console me that it's sleepable, yet nonetheless, Mara, I'll live, I'll make it. I got to the end of the road, like the song you be are just singing, like a chipmunk, okay? That's what's giving you lesbians. But repenting and stop trying to make the country in your own image, cause you're gonna lose out all the day. You are. You're gonna lose out all the day, cause are you not just nice? Yeah. Ooh. Mama, like, okay, like, bye. Listen, peace.